Hey everybody, welcome back to Malts and Meeples. I'm Petter, and today it's time for the start of my top 100 games of all time 2024 edition. So, on this first one, I always like to kind of preface it a little bit so you're aware of just a couple of things. First is how I make this list. I make this list using PubMeeple. PubMeeple is a comparison kind of ranking engine that can pull in your games from that you've rated, owned, previously owned, whatever it might be, on BGG. And then it offers you comparisons. Basically, do you like game A better? Do you like game B better? If you pick B over A, puts them in that order. Then it says, do you like C better? Do you like D better? Say you like C better. Puts those two in that order, C and D. Now, it goes on to the next one and says, hey, do you like B better or C better? If you say you like C better, then it asks, do you like D better or B better? If you say you like D better, it knows that your ranking is C, D, B, A because you liked A less than B, but you liked C and D more than B. So you never have to do that comparison with A. That's basically how the system works. Is it a perfect system? Generally, yes. Because assuming that you're answering truthfully to yourself, you're putting it in the correct order. Now, there's a little bit of something to think about with it, just because you may find that one game compared against another, everything's done within a moment, and one comparison might be focused more on how much fun do I have every time I play that game, or another time it might be how excited I am to play that game, and you might look at it and go, well, if I rank it off of excitement, these two should flip-flop. But because I was ranking, when I did that comparison, I was thinking more like fun in the moment of the game. So it all depends on the moment. I go through and rank. I believe this year I ranked everything that I had at 7 or higher, and that was my list. And that is, well, that's not a short ranking effort. I think I ended up with 400 some games, and I set myself 200 of them. So I'm doing my top 100 now. After I do my top 100, I'll plan on doing a video to kind of just walk through the 101 to 200. But that's enough. Nah, it's not enough time wasting. Let's talk about the drink today. We have Shibui whiskey from Japan. It is it's pretty pleasant. Like very light colored whiskey. Enjoyable to drink. Oh, and I guess the final thing I should say is these rankings were done, I want to say, 3 weeks ago. I have played new games since then. Would those games make the list? Maybe. But this list is the snapshot of Petter 3 weeks ago with what I played and what I was thinking then. So let's get to the list, starting with number 100 here. Number 100 is going to be a familiar one. It's going to be Blank Slate. Blank Slate is one of my favorite party games, and one of the party games that goes over best for my group. And really, almost any game group I pull it out with. Because it's a simple concept for a game, but has a lot of fun moments and feels just that little bit more strategic than I think a lot of party games do. So in Blank Slate, you can see in this example, you would have no word and then slate. And you have to come up with something that goes in front of the word slate. Everybody puts down their answer. And you're not guessing to see who answered what or anything like that, which I appreciate. It's much simpler. You want to match with one person and one person only. Doesn't matter who in the group that person is, you just want to match with one person. Because if you match with one person, both of you get 3 points. If you match with more than one person, everybody in that group gets 1 point. You don't match with anybody, no points. So some of it is how well do you know your group, but I've played with groups that I don't know that well, and it still works because everybody is trying to kind of think about what's my best option here. Then, number 99. Number 99 is going to be Sky Tier Horde. This is a solo game. Solo multiplayer game. It actually has a ton of modes. I don't know why I said solo. I think of it mostly as a solo game. But you can play competitively, one person in charge of the horde against defenders, or you can play cooperatively with an AI horde versus 2 players playing different factions, or the way I prefer it is you play it as a solo game with one person controlling 2 different factions, and then the AI kind of running the enemy. I say AI, it's Automa, whatever system, whatever phrase you want to use to describe a board game solo experience where the game itself does stuff. It's not just a game where you're playing against yourself, but you have to react to what the game does. It's a tower defense game for the most part. You have enemies coming down. They come down in lanes, and you are trying to beat them. You're trying to beat them. You're trying to beat their tower before they can destroy your city. But as you beat their tower, you then now have to, or their base, whatever it might be, you have to then defeat their boss. Once you've defeated their boss, that's the game. But can you do that before they wipe you out? And there's a number of different things that kind of make this one feel a little bit unique to me. Sure, lane battler, boss battler, tower defense, that sort of stuff is fairly normal, but there's no automatic card draw for this one. You need to take out enemies to get cards. So you have to be smart with what's in your hand, how you deploy them, how you use them, and to be able to stop the enemy. So that's my number 99. Number 98 is going to be Marvel United. Marvel United, I expect, is actually going to move back up the list this year. I'm one of the people who is still waiting on their Multiverse Pledge. Once that comes in, I want to get everything set up for playing as easily as possible. But this is a superhero co-op battler game that's done in a really nice, easy, accessible way. You're just playing out a card. That card has 2 symbols on it, maybe a special action. But as a hero, you're playing out a card, and that card might be like move and punch. Well, so you can move and you can punch a thug or a henchman at a location. Then the next player goes, and this is honestly my favorite part of the game, is next player goes, and then next player gets to use the actions on your card. Now, if you had a special action, they don't get to use that, but the symbols of move and punch. So they might add in another move and a heroic action. So they move, punch, save a bystander. Then the next player goes, third player goes, they use from the card before. So it's a cooperative game that's very simple, but there's good teamwork to it. And I like every single I mean, I'm a huge Marvel fan, so I like the theme a lot. It works well. I didn't go in on the DC one. I'm like, I can't have two of these sitting around. But I like how the heroes work, all that, and the villains are all unique. It's not like every villain is just you have to punch them. There are other ways you have to win. There are other things you have to think about as you play the game because they might have their own win conditions that are different than just knock out a hero or survive longer than the heroes can. And each boss, yeah, you have to do two things before you can even hit them. So you might have to take out a certain number of thugs, rescue a certain number of bystanders, complete a certain number of kind of heroic action missions. And that's just so much fun to do, and it's so easy to set up. Villain, okay, you grab their villain dashboard, villain cards. That's what you need. Two things. Heroes, grab their mini. Oh, I guess three things. Forgot the villain mini. For the heroes, grab the villain or hero deck, grab their mini. That's it. Then set up locations. I mean, you can easily swap out and replay and reset up so often that it's a blast to sit down and play a few times and create your own teams, whether that be Beta Ray Bill with Squirrel Girl and who else, Spider-Man, or if you want to do something that's more classic Avengers, with Captain America, Tony Stark, and Hulk up against the Red Guardian. Or you could have Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Spider-Gwen go up against Green Goblin. All of those are options, and you can make it as comic booky as you want, or you can just be like, yeah, I really like playing as Groot because every single card says I am Groot on it. So I'm going to play Groot, and Groot's going to join up against the Green Goblin. That was my number 98. My number 97 is going to be Tesseract. Tesseract, actually, sitting right back here, is one that I need to get to the table again. I played it several times last year, including several times at Gen Con last year, and it is a fun cooperative experience for a game. And it's something that feels different and unique because that cube there, that is a cube of dice. It's, I think it's 4x4. 4x4x4. So, whatever that is, 16 times 4, 60, yeah, 72. Yeah, whatever it is. I could figure this out better if I just did 16 plus 16 is 32. 32 times 2 is 64. Wow. No, I should have known that off the top of my head. Never mind. But it has kind of that cooperative pandemic type feel of everything's counting down and you're getting closer to the end, and you need to figure out ways to interact with the dice, manipulate the dice, and be able to place them kind of on this board to crack this code. It's not really code, you just need one die of each number and color on there. And that's going to start unlocking like special bonuses. Each character has their own special powers, and just the cooperation and teamwork of trying to figure out, okay, how do we make this work so that the game isn't getting its outbreaks or basically causing issues for us, causing us to lose more dice. It's a really fun experience of a game that has amazing toy factor just because you have that queue of dice that you're interacting with on the table. You're figuring out which dice to remove, how to interact with that works super well. Then, let's see. This was number 97. I really should put numbers on these. believe this is number 96. 96 is going to be Starship Captains. Another one that I need to get played again, but I had a lot of fun when I was playing it. This is basically going around, picking up missions, completing missions, dealing with pirates, and leveling up and getting new crew. Doing all of that in a very streamlined game. But it has one really kind of fun element to the game of every round you kick out 3 crew. Those 3 crew are going to be the ones, and there are ways to bump that up, I believe, or to, for a turn, get out more, but those 3 crew are going to be the actions that you take. And depending on the order that you take your actions, that's going to put them back into the queue of the crew. So you can be strategic about it and think about like, okay, maybe in a couple rounds when they come back up, I'm going to want to have 2 move actions, or I'm going to want to have 2 of this type of character because I'll need them to complete missions or stuff like that. And so you're like, all right, let me set that up. Or it might be instead, I don't want any duplicates because there's a limited space that you can use some of these characters. And there's always some generic actions, but generics aren't as good. So maybe you're like, oh, I want to make sure they are separated. Even though I just got this crew, so I'm going to take a less optimal turn now to have a better one later. But the game is just so fast too that you have to make smart choices every single turn. And I'm saying that for what is really a very easy game. So then I believe this is easy to pick up game. Number 95 is going to be a new one this year. One that I picked up at Gen Con, River Valley Glassworks. I got to play it at Gen Con. I played it at the Man vs. Meeple Gen Con meetup. I think. No, I didn't play this one there. I played it with some friends. Came back from Gen Con. That was it. Then I played it at game night. Then I played it with another friend. And it's just been a blast to play. This one is simple to play, but there's just this one rule that's always tricky to teach. In this game, you are putting out a piece of glass onto this river, and where you place it, you get to pick all the glass from either of the spots to either side of it. But for placing the glass, you have to match the shape of that river tile section. So if it's a circular oval glass piece, I need to put an oval piece on there to be able to pick from either side. But then when you take them and you're putting them on your player board because you're collecting the glass, then you're worried about color. Shape doesn't matter at that point. You want to get the most. You want to have tall columns of colors. You want to have long completed rows of colors. And that's going to be how you score your points at the end of the game. But there's more colors than can fit on your board, and the board only goes so high. So you don't want to push too far, because then you're going to start taking negative points because you don't have a spot for them on the board. So it's a really simple game to teach and play, minus the row scoring. Row scoring, I still have yet to figure out like the ideal way to teach that. But the rest of the game is just really simple. It's very fast, yet there's still good strategy in thinking about it as you consider, do I want to maybe focus on getting rows complete, even though that might mean I score a little bit less on my columns, or vice versa. Do I want to say, no, I'm not going to put the most common colors of stones towards the beginning, assuming that you have that choice even. But it might be something you strategize against and pick some rarer colors to start, and then hope to build up tall columns later so you can score more points that way. It's just a fun game, and the solo mode works well as well. If you want to check out the solo mode, I played that here on Malts and Meeples, just against the kind of introductory one. Wasn't difficult, but I can see how the harder ones are going to be a whole lot harder. Then, I believe this is number 94. 94 is going to be Atlantis Rising, another cooperative game on the list. This one is going to be, basically, Atlantis is sinking. You need to work together to build technologies to basically open a portal and escape Atlantis. The problem is Atlantis, like I said, it's sinking. So, as you play, the game board is shrinking. You have peninsulas in different areas for getting different resources, and as you go, you're going to be flipping cards, and those peninsulas will be getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. But you're always thinking, do I want to be out towards the end of that peninsula? Because if I'm out towards the end of the peninsula, it's better rewards for me. Do I think, based off of what we've drawn already, based off of how we are trying to save kind of different parts of the peninsula, do I think that it's going to be pulled? Because if it is, and I go under the water, I'll get nothing. But if it isn't, and I can pick up those goods, that's really going to help us along our way. It's a fun system, very easy straightforward once you get into it, and a lot of cooperation on it, because you have to think about what everybody's doing. Everybody places their workers at the same time. So when you place out your workers, it is just a conversation of, okay, I'm thinking about doing this because my character has this bonus, that sort of thing. It is a lot of fun. Then, moving on to our next one here, 93, I believe, is Draftosaurus. This is a little game that I kind of like to call a roll and write, though it's not. It is actually a drafting game, and it's a drafting game where you're placing dinosaurs into pens. And I think that's the part that feels like the roll and write to me. Basically, you're trying to draft what makes sense to help you score points. And each pen scores in different ways. There's the Love Shack pen, where you need every pair of dinosaurs the same type score you 5 points, or whatever it is. There's ones where you want in your dinosaur pen an AB, AB, AB pattern, or every dinosaur to be different, or you'll get points if you have the most of the Triceratops in your zoo. Whatever it might be, fun, different scoring ways. Very light game, a good filler, kind of breezy time. Adding more players does not make the game take longer, since it is drafting. Everybody has their handful of dinosaur meeples, which is fun as well. And there's a couple other rules to it, but nothing major. And there are a couple expansions to it, but I think even the base box is it's plenty fun to keep playing over and over and over again. Then 92, we have the Night Cage. Another cooperative game. So actually a number of cooperative games this section. The Night Cage is a wonderful game for Halloween. In the Night Cage, you are in a labyrinth that is ever-changing. You only have a candle with you. And you know that there's a way out. But you need keys to get out. And everybody needs keys to get out, because you need all 4 keys. And you have to find a portal to get out. But you're also trying to avoid the wax eaters. Wax eaters are these monsters who, well, they're going to shoot at you, they're going to steal the wax from your candle, and it's going to go out. So when the candle's lit, you can only see the tiles adjacent to you, adjacent and connected to you. If it goes out, you're just walking blind through it. And I think that that works really well. It's a good creepy theme. The tiles, you put them in what's basically a stack that looks like a candle. And so as you're removing tiles to put them on the board, you're watching it burn down, knowing that everybody doesn't have their keys yet, and knowing that, okay, we've just pulled a bunch of tiles in a row without getting a wax eater. When's one going to show up? So I love that about it. It has a nice spooky theme to it, and honestly, I should play it this upcoming month. It is a good game for Halloween. And then my final one, this one actually has dropped a ways on the list. A number of, actually, in this section have dropped some on the list. But my number 91 is going to be Deception Murder in Hong Kong. Now, don't get it wrong. I still love this game. It's the only social deduction game that I like. And this one is a blast to play because it's not just deduction. There's also kind of this element of strategy, or social deduction. It's not just social deduction. It's element of deduction as well. Sorry, my brain went totally into a fog there for a second. After I said deduction without saying social deduction, I was like, okay, what's the other thing? Is it strategy? Let's just say that. No. So there's a social deduction element because there's somebody in the group who's a killer. And in front of them, of their 4 cards for a murder weapon and for a clue, there's one that's a clue and one that's the murder weapon. But you don't know who around the table that is. Only the forensic scientist knows, and the forensic scientist is just sending up reports. Now, that's a little bit untrue. There might be a witness. The witness knows who the murderer is, but not what they used. And the murderer might have an accomplice, somebody who's trying to throw people off the scent. But as the forensic scientist sends up reports, it might be like, okay, the murder took place at a school. All right, let's look at the weapons. Let's look at the clues. Which ones would you expect to see at a school? Of course, the forensic scientist is just sending up the reports that they have. Some of those may not be useful at all. And then now, all of a sudden, they're trying to direct you away from a clue that they previously gave because, well, that was just because they had to, and it was the one that worked the best. But this is a really fun social deduction and deduction experience. It's great playing in any role, from the detectives trying to piece stuff together, the witness trying to push people towards the right thing but not being too obvious, because if the witness is too obvious and the murderer is caught, then the murderer and accomplice can point out who the witness is and off them. Of course, as the murderer, you don't want to be too obvious in pushing people away from you, like not more than other people are. Maybe as the accomplice, you're trying to get people to focus in on some of your stuff a little bit more. But it's all this really fun gaming experience. So, there we have it. We have 100 through 91. Let me know down in the comment section below which is your favorite of these 10 games, or which is one that you really want to check out, because I think there's a ton of really good and fun games on this list. But with that, I really appreciate you watching. If you enjoy this content, please give the video a thumbs up. Like I said, leave a comment and subscribe. Subscribing is going to be the best way to know when I go live. On Mondays, it's a little bit sporadic as to when I go live. Wednesdays, at least here for a little bit, the plan is going to be 9 p.m. Central Time, as I over the next 10 weeks, 9 weeks at this point, I guess, go through the rest of my top 100 games of all time. And if you want to check out other content, check out previous top 100 videos. You can find all of those here on the channel, or I have nerdologist.com, spot where I write articles about board games, movies, TV shows, anime, manga, books, Marvel, whatever it might be. And finally, I do also co-host a Marvel podcast called 10 Minute Marvel. You can find that wherever you get your friendly neighborhood podcasts from. But with that, bottoms up.